and thanks for joining us today. I'm Carol Jenkins. The program is Black America. And we are delighted today to be talking again with Tonya Pinkins, Tony Award-winning Broadway and television actor, author of Get Over Yourself, and activist. She was a guest on Black America in season 1, making headlines for rejecting a role because she felt it was denigrating. We'll talk a little bit about that. But she is back now with an important contribution to the Me Too movement, a series of podcasts with women talking about their Me Too experiences. She's also a pivotal member of the Time's Up Women of Color effort. And I don't know, your credits get longer and longer, Tonya. I don't know. We just stopped there for no reason other than the whole half hour would be gone. We're so delighted that you are back. And we must say that when you were here the first season, you came not knowing who we were or say, oh, well, let me take a chance. And you then had left Mother Courage because you felt that the interpretation of it was not a positive image. Talk to us, just bring us up to date on.
That was a life-changing experience for me. I think that there were some misunderstandings. I certainly don't think it was anybody's intention for it to be that way. But, I was invited to play Mother Courage. Right. Mother Courage, it's one of the greatest roles in the canon. And then in the process of putting the show on, it was clear that it wasn't going to be Mother Courage's play. And the director had a hard time even telling the cast that it was Mother Courage's play. And so all of the things that make Mother Courage were stripped from the character, including one of the most basic things, which is her cart. She's a woman carrying a cart across a war-torn continent, or her history were cut from the play. And I thought, would we do this if this was a white actress? Why do you think this is okay to do for me to take this out off of this character? And so I really haven't done much theater since.
Well, that was a stake in the sand, so to speak, let's not.
Yeah, being really clear with people before you go in the room of what are we making, and are we in agreement about what we're making and what its impact is going to be, not just as an entertainment, but on the larger conversation in the world about race and class.
And do you think things have changed since then? No. No.
You know what has changed?
What?
Some other people have become aware of what Black and brown people have known forever in this country. That's the only change. And I think the change for them is still disbelief and cognitive dissonance and grief and I don't want to believe it and denial, but it's not anything new for us. Just some other people are like, oh, I had no idea.
Ah, right. Still do that every day. Right, every day. Now they know. Now beginning to know.
Well, they don't know yet, but
they don't really.
Exactly.
When I was reading about your updated work, I had missed this whole concept of you as rape counselor. That you were doing that, back in the 80s?
Yes.
Was it? Talk to us a little bit about that, because it leads right up to the work that you're doing today.
I'm a survivor myself, and I've always believed that volunteerism is important, to give back to the world. And I had an opportunity to go and be trained by what was then St. Luke's Roosevelt Hospital, to be trained as a rape crisis counselor. So what that meant is if someone came in who was saying they had been raped, I was the first person that they would interact with. And I was there to be their advocate and to intercede between any other person who had contact with them to help this process not be another trauma for them.
Another trauma, right. And so now flip to 2018, 17-18, as the Me Too movement is coming into play. Did you see a role for yourself immediately as that was happening?
I don't know if I saw a role for myself, but I care about it a lot. It's personal for me, and I want to see a change. And so, and I want a radical change because it's been going on forever. So I think that I'm very radical about it, and I want things to change yesterday, and was interested in talking with anyone who had any ideas about how to do that.
Right, and so the Me Too dialogues came about.
Right.
36, is that?
36 video conversations.
Video conversations of women talk, and a man or
Women,
two.
oh, I mean, there are men. There's a therapist who works with predators. That's what his client base is. Michael Beckwith, Reverend Michael Beckwith was there. Rudy Mazzocchi, who I talked to him about what's the neuroscience about, can we actually go in and change someone's brain and remove these impulses? So it wasn't just people who had happened to, which there were, like Sarah Cruzan, who was trafficked from age 11 to 15 and killed her trafficker at 16 and was sentenced to life plus 3 days without possibility of parole, and served
That's
19
an
years of that
interesting
sentence. Right.
She's served how much?
19 years on a life plus 3 days without possibility of parole sentence. So it's a wide variety of conversations. Of course, Alicia Garza and Sarah Ramirez, Jessica Neuwirth of Donor Direct Action, Eve Ensler, Tarana Burke, Monique Wilson of 1 Billion Rising. There was just the conversations I wanted to know, because I don't have an answer, to compile as many people with many ideas of answers so that there was a sort of one-stop shopping. If you want to hear some expertise, you can go here and hear it from the horse's mouth.
I'm curious, I didn't get to listen to the one about the neurosciences. What did he have to say? Is it possible to fix it?
Yeah.
It is?
There are actually 3 techniques by which they could go in and alter your brain to do it. And he said it's really just, because I said, well, then why can't these people who go to, rehab for sex addiction, why can't that be a requirement that they have to go through this therapy that actually will remove the impulse to predation? And he said, well, that would be a subject that we have to decide socially and morally. Do we think it's okay to alter people's brains? And we know the CIA has been doing that and trying to do it forever. So it's like, okay, yeah, I think it's okay.
Well, we're going to play a couple of snippets.
Okay.
Let's start with Tarana Burke.
Okay.
Because that's where
She founded the Me Too movement.
that's where all of this started. Let's
Yes.
take a listen to Tarana.
I was young. I was 22, right out of college, and I met this child who was really special to me because I felt sort of a kinship to her. And when she shared her experience with sexual violence, I was at a place in my life with my own experience that I was still struggling and trying to come to terms with what exactly had happened to me, and was not using language like survivor or even victim at the time. And so I completely shut down. And although in my mind, the thing that I wanted to say was that this happened to me too.
That this happened to me too, and to so many. It's extraordinary. So,
Yeah, I would be surprised if it hasn't happened to almost every person, male and female, on the planet in some way.
in some way,
Either they
yeah.
witnessed it or it happened to them personally. But I just, when I talk to people, it's impacted so many people.
Right. Well, in fact, I have a friend who's now grappling with this because she was, in what some would say a minor way, touched by a male friend, family friend, and her dilemma about, do I say something? Do I need to, so that others aren't? So it wasn't rape, but it was touching. And so there's the continuum that we continue to fight about of whether or not it's worth some guy's life, job, etc.
Well, I mean, when we talk about someone's life, job, etc., when we're talking about the extreme end of the thing, yeah, because it actually, the extreme ends destroyed somebody else's life. But I think when we're talking about touching or conversation, I think that we as women and men have to get to the place in our own selves where we can have the confidence to speak about it in the moment. Because I know in the show business culture, there's so much, I remember at ABC when I was there on the soap opera, we used to have a sign on the dressing room that said, sexual conduct will not be tolerated here. However, it will be graded. And that was a joke. So the idea in the show business social circles, that kind of talk is just, it's okay, and I'm sure it makes a lot of people uncomfortable. But if you're coming from that culture, there has to be a kind of smooth transition to, let me tell you in this moment, that's not okay for me.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt this time. But we have to get the courage to do that, because that's hard, because something is at stake, especially if it's someone who's an authority over you or a boss. It's hard.
Right. We also have a clip from Alicia Garza of Black Lives Matter. Let's take a listen to her and talk on the other side.
ultimately, when we kind of talk about these cases, we talk about the ones that end up, in front of us on screens, on social media, or on television. But, it's very common, actually, for working class women, women of color, working class people, and people of color to experience this kind of violence and to not have any attention paid to it.
Precisely, and that's I talked with Tarana Burke. I interviewed her for my podcast, and I mean, what she said was all of this attention is great, except that where are the resources for the women on the ground, for the poor women, the black and brown women who've been through this to actually get help?
Right.
Because so much of the attention was going to movie stars.
Right. And that was one of the impetuses for me when the Shift Network invited me to do the Me Too dialogues. I think their interest was definitely about who are the celebrity people who we can get. And in negotiating with them, I said, there's a lot of people I know who aren't celebrities, who have stories that are important to tell. The child trafficking aspect of it is, to me, the most important piece because it's the biggest business in the world. It makes more money than drugs. It's intimately connected with drugs because when you're having a child raped 100 times a day, you got to drug them to survive that. And so it was important to me to get these stories of people who aren't famous, who are suffering in silence. To hear Sarah say no one even asked her what had happened to her as an 11-year-old to a 17-year-old. There was even an issue of me saying that, you were raped for 5 years of your childhood, and that was considered, by some that was like, how dare I say that? But that's the reality. She was raped all day, every day, and I don't know if this story was in hers, but she said there was a police officer who used to come to see her, and he gave her a piece of his pubic hair. He said, I want you to have some of my DNA so you know I'll never arrest you. Just the sort of sickness of, in his mind, that he knows he's doing something wrong, but his penance is going to be, I'm going to, if something happens and I'm on the side, I'm going to let you be able to take me down too.
Breathtaking, breathtaking, breathtaking. Well, now we have the case, as you know, of Asia Argento, who herself made a huge settlement with a young male, as it turns out, fellow actor. He had
Right.
played her child in a previous film. And so there is this idea that it sets the entire movement back, if that it raises challenges of credibility for so many other women, because she claimed that Harvey Weinstein.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, she claimed that he raped her.
Right.
I think they're apples and oranges.
Right.
I think the challenge, I can't speak for Asia. I don't even know Asia, but I know when I was thinking about it for myself, I thought bad advice. Bad advice. You're in the middle of the Me Too dialogues. You cannot do a settlement. You cannot do a settlement.
Right.
But that's hindsight, and it's hindsight
Right.
from somebody on the outside. But I think had it been me, I would have had to come forward. Mm-hmm. At the point that someone was coming after me and saying this is going to come forward,
Right.
I would have myself had to come forward and say, this happened to me. I behaved badly. Doesn't change the fact that this happened to me. We were both wrong.
Right, right, right. So Tarana Burke tweeted about all of this as people were beginning to say, you see, there's something wrong with the whole system. Here we go. She said, people will use these recent news stories to try and discredit this movement. Don't let that happen. This is what movement is all about. It's not a spectator sport. It's people generated. We get to say this isn't what this movement is about.
Absolutely. And that she did something wrong does not in any way mitigate what Harvey Weinstein did.
Right, exactly. So now we saw each other most recently at the Women of Color event.
For Jill Soloway's leg of Time's Up, which is 50-50 by 2020, which is a movement. I can't explain it as well as Jill can, but what they want is 50-50 in positions of power across all industries, male and female, by 2020, and then within that 80% of those people would be people who are considered othered. So it's not just enough that you go, we got 50% male and female, mm-hmm. Then 80% of those have to include disabled people, LGBTQAI people, brown and black people, any other kinds of ways in which people would be different, that 80% of leadership positions would be othered people and 50% would be men, women.
So that's, and Jill Soloway, of course, of Transparent, creator of
Yes.
Transparent. I thought she spoke very well. I think we were both saying it was such a terrific event that evening.
It was.
But it's the women of color who generated that, as so often
Yes.
is done. A lot of women of color.
Because it's happening to us. We're like 80% of the world people of color, and yet in terms of the time and attention we get in the public media, we don't get very much. And we know why, but we don't. But we really are greatly impacted because we are the larger population.
Right, yeah, and I was also at the Tribeca Time's Up event where
Okay.
I met Leslie Silva.
Leslie Silva.
Right, and all who was fantastic, who led me to the group, and we've been to some of those meetings. But now the overall Time's Up, the legal aspect of that too. I talked with Roberta Kaplan recently, who is heading up the legal representation.
Okay.
And that's a little different. I mean, they've raised millions.
20 million.
20 million, right, for that. But it's interesting the way it works. Some people think that the women victims are getting $20 million. They're not. This is money that's being used to pay the lawyers who will represent these women in cases.
And I think another misconception people have is that they think that that money was raised for the silence breakers. That money was not raised for the silence breakers. So women who came forward like Rosanna Arquette and, gosh, as my brain shuts down, Asia Argento, Rose McGowan, those women do not get that money. They don't even necessarily get access to that money for their own legal fees. That money is doled out by the National Women's Law Center.
Right.
And they determine which cases they want to take on. And $20 million in the law is not a lot of money. Tina Chin said that to us as a group. She said, 20 million is not a lot of money for a lawsuit. But they've had some lawsuits and they've had some successes.
Right. But there are thousands of women now who stand to get representation. Always the issue is on a one-by-one situation. I think that because in so many cases, even if you win, you lose because
you lose.
Then you're not employable if you have sued and won for reparations for the abuse, and no one else wants to hire you.
Right. You're doing a service to the community, to your world. You are being a martyr when you step out and you speak about something that's wrong, because you're going to be blacklisted. I've experienced it just from speaking up about mother courage. It's just the reality. If you're going to speak a truth, that's an uncomfortable truth, you pay a price.
And I think what Roberta was saying also is that many lawyers cannot afford to take these cases on because there's
no money in it.
No money. So that's what that $20 million and growing is being used for.
But a lot of people did volunteer. I mean, I think they had a large percentage of lawyers who volunteered to just work pro bono, at least for the initial consultations, to find out what stories people had to tell and whether there were viable cases involved.
Right. And of course, as an equal rights ERA amendment advocate as I am, I think that the solution to all of that is to change the Constitution.
I'm with you. Most people don't understand that the fact that the Constitution doesn't say that men and women are equal means that under the law, women are not equal, and so many cases will go against us because we're not equal. They don't even know that that is a reality.
Precisely. Yeah, we're getting you right away. Right, we need to amend that Constitution. So you say that you felt that for speaking up in Mother Courage that you were blacklisted. Do you think that? Not think.
I'm sure. I'm absolutely certain about it.
Right.
I mean, I've had friends who are students in schools talk about their teachers in classes telling them why I should not get to work anymore because how dare I have an opinion, and I'm paid to do a job and I should just do it. And it's like, wow, has the world come to that we just, if I pay you, you should just do whatever I tell you to do. I think that's kind of like prostitution or trafficking.
Yeah. Well, the last time we were here, I said, so you really should be a director so that you get.
That is true.
And now,
I am working on my directing. I've been shadowing on television shows, and I'm directing a play in New York that'll go up at the 14th Street Y, January 10th, called Till We Meet Again. So yeah, I've moved in that direction. Just finished directing an opera, a trilogy opera, the Paul Robeson opera, last month, and I directed Bring It On, the musical for Black Spectrum Theater. So that is a reality now.
That is fantastic.
Yes.
Well, we saw you on network television in Scandal, season 6. You played the girlfriend of.
Sandra. I'll never forget it.
You'll never forget it. And, those of us, and we, of course, were big Tonya Pinkins fans, and we're watching. Oh, she's going to be on Scandal tonight. And he goes, and he shoots you.
Oh, I know.
And it was as if we had lost a personal friend. Oh my
Yes,
God!
yes, because we were such a good couple. The chemistry, the love was just, you understood why he had hit her for all these years. They had found Papa Pope's little soft spot.
Right.
So he couldn't have that.
Wow, that was quite a dramatic. And now you're working on a couple of new.
Right, Terrence Nance's Random Acts of Flyness, which is just this kind of revolutionary nighttime variety sketch comedy show, 6 Black directors telling stories about Blackness in the most authentic form that I've ever seen. Black sci-fi, Black Afrofuturism. It's a great show. And it's already been picked up for a new season.
Oh, great. That's always the important thing.
Terrence
and
Nance
that's
is
and that's
brilliant.
what
HBO.
That's your HBO.
That's
series. You
HBO.
have so many. And what is the Fear of the Walking Dead?
Fear the Walking Dead. I am a new character that was just introduced last week on Fear the Walking Dead, and she's very mysterious. Yeah,
I don't know whether Audrey, can we play that clip? I mean, this is so.
Oh,
wait, look. I think we're afraid to play the sound. I tell you, when we saw that, we said, "Oh my!" And now I have not watched,
you don't like zombies.
No, I'm not a big fan of zombies. But you look like if I were going to watch a zombie, it would be you, Tonya.
Well, you know why I like zombies? I feel like zombies are the metaphor for anything that's wrong in a global sense. And so the difference for me in the zombie world shows is instead of us following an anti-hero, who, like Olivia Pope is an anti-hero, in the zombie world, you have all these good people. They're just regular human beings. They're good people, and they're trying to see how they can maintain their humanity in a difficult situation that is not going to end, that they cannot control the end of. So that's what is compelling to me about the zombie world.
I tell you, I'd love to. I mean, I've never heard any description about that sit around the table in the beginning of the shoot. This is what this is all about.
Yeah.
You are fantastic. We were talking about Anika Noni Rose because you guys were in Caroline together.
And her production of Carmen.
Carmen.
Oh, one of my favorite movies ever, and she was perfect. Perfect.
I know. Well, and Cecily Tyson was there. We went. My daughter and I, Elizabeth, went to see her the last performance, and Cecily came over and gave her, a big hug because what an accomplishment! I didn't know she had that voice.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes. It was my disappointment in Dreamgirls when they cut that song "Ain't No Party," which was Loretta Devine's song, and it was like, because she would have stole the whole movie if you got to hear Anika hit those notes. Yeah,
right,
it would have been the Anika Noni Rose Dreamgirls.
That's why. So, we always ask our guests the power, the strength of Black America. We
are seeing the power and the strength of Black America with 3 Black gubernatorial candidates. We are seeing it right now.
Georgia, Maryland, and Florida.
Yes.
Andrew Gillum just, recently added to the pack, and Stacey.
Yes.
I'm going down to work for her because I say it's a perhaps this is the first of a lifetime, I won't say once of a lifetime, where you have a Black woman who is actually the Democratic candidate for a governor of a southern state.
Yes, 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 I love it. It's exciting and delicious.
So expand that, though. You went to the political. You see that, the strength of power. Now, in so many ways for Black America. What else? Since you're our spiritual decoder.
I'm going to tangent a second and say that I've been working on this story that I want to tell, which is about, our our African ancestors, who we didn't even really hear the stories of how they rose up and rebelled and died in brutal ways. And part of my story is that sometimes you have to be willing to die in order to win. Sometimes you have to be the martyr in order to affect a change. And I think that's what we're seeing. Certainly they're trying to wipe us out of the rolls, but I think something is moving in us. I think 45 in the White House is making it very clear, where we might have been able to rationalize that, oh, it's getting better, even though what we were experiencing in our daily lives is not. We're like, oh, we're going to have to do something. Okay, we're going to do it, and we can do it. We've done it before. Right. We've done it before. So it's exciting to me that we're using the power that has been given to us, but we're also using our own power in the way Alicia Garza talks about this non-hierarchical movement that is happening, where you can't just take a king and you're going to kill a king and destroy a movement, because these people rising up all over the country, the leaders are everybody's a leader.
Great.
Everybody's a leader.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Tonya Pinkins, in so many ways. We'll see you on TV and in the Me Too dialogues and all. Be sure to subscribe and listen to the Me Too dialogues. You will not be sorry for that.
Hope you give them a link for how they can do that.
We will. And thanks to you out there, too, for being with us. I'm Carol Jenkins. The program is Black America.